technology is a big part of our lives, whether we like it or not. It seems like not a day goes by when somebody comes up with some new piece of technology or does something different to an already existing piece and kind of changes the game up and alters our lives ever so slightly. I mean, I'm old enough that I remember a time pretty much before personal computers were a big deal, or at least before everybody had them, especially in their pockets at all times. It was a big deal when our school got some Macintosh 2s in, and we were able to, do word processing and play games on them. And pretty interesting stuff. I mean, even back then you thought, wow, this is a real game changer for the world. I guess it's no surprise then that when these technologies kind of emerge, that people want to juxtapose them with old-fashioned beliefs of ghosts and the supernatural and spirits and stuff like that. And I think that's why today's theme, the haunted hard drive, is such a cool one to talk about. You always think about hauntings in terms of old locations, spooky old buildings built hundreds of years ago, old castles and old cathedrals and stuff like that, battlefields where 100 years or more ago a battle took place is now haunted. But haunted computer is kind of something you don't hear about too often. It's a very fascinating thing, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. Now, working in IT for a while, the old joke was that various objects and computers were haunted. I remember trying to talk my boss into let me taking a paranormal investigation class so I can figure out just what was wrong with one of our servers. That didn't fly too well, but the point still remains, it's kind of a fun thing to joke and talk about. For today's drawing, as you can see already here, we're doing a nice laptop on a desk and this green specter coming out to haunt the place up, as it were, coming out of the laptop. We're going to stick mostly to the dark blacks in the background as if it's like a darkened office, and just those green colors too, so it's almost a monochromatic drawing. It's going to give a fun effect, and I really like it when it's all said and done, so you guys stick around for that. Now, if you've ever seen a haunted computer movie, you'll know that most of these are absolute garbage that are out there. There's a couple of good ones, but there's a lot of bad ones, let me tell you. Probably one of the first that I was ever made aware of with haunted computers and the haunted internet was a Japanese film called Cairo, aka Pulse, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And that was from 2001. And this dealt with spirits being trapped within computers and technology and coming out and haunting people. Really creepy, really effective. Track it down. I highly recommend it. They also made a remake in 2006, the American remake, Pulse, which was directed by Wes Craven. Not terrible. No, I'm not going to say it's terrible or anything like that, but it's just not as spooky and atmospheric as the original. And if you want to see some really atrocious flicks, check out the 2 American sequels to Pulse. Awful. I can't even go into it more than that. Awful. We've got Fear.com from 2002. Terrible, terrible flick. Saw that one in the theaters. Wish it didn't. Smiley from 2012, where an internet ghost killer has an emoticon face. Yeah, okay, that's a thing. You can see that if you want, but again, I wouldn't recommend it. We've got the Unfriended movies from recently that take place all from the perspective of a character's laptop screen. Kind of innovative, but again, not worth your time. I don't like the characters, didn't like the story for either of those. Now, if we want to go into some other haunted tech and other things like that, you can look into, of course, the Japanese flick Ringu from 1998 and its American remake, which I highly recommend. Check out my Drawlloween video from, I think, 2 years ago to hear me talk a little bit more about that one. You've got the movie Stay Alive from 2006, which is about a haunted video game. Ooh, spooky. And Malcolm in the Middle and his friends have to stop the ghost of Elizabeth Bathory from killing them from a video game. Yeah, okay. There we go. That's the thing. Of course, you've got Stephen King's Christine, about a haunted car. The Dutch flick from 1983, The Lift, which is about a haunted elevator. Yes, a haunted elevator. Good stuff. If you're into creepypastas, I can highly recommend the NES Godzilla creepypasta. I'll throw a link for that in the description, but I would definitely recommend reading this one. Even if you're not into creepypastas, it's just a good story about some haunted tech, and it's really cool, and I dig that a lot. Then we've got, I have to make mention of this, because where else am I going to talk about this? Anyone else remember the 1995 Sandra Bullock movie, The Net? Not haunted, just a thriller. I don't know why, but I certainly remember that movie. I used to rent it a ton, and watched it all the time. I don't know why, but when am I ever going to bring up The Net from 95? Okay, let's start finishing this guy off here. Put in the mouse, and we can kind of do the keyboard here with the pen. It's just a little bit easier, just the implication there. I love that ghostly green on this guy. Let's give it a big old white border around the ghost. I think that's going to make him pop even more out of this, which is the goal here. Setting him the extremely bright green against that extremely dark background is a great contrast and is going to pop him out a lot. Let's take a look at the scan and see how he's turning out. Spooky dooky, guys. I love it. Let's go in for a little bit of a closer look here at the details. And I had a lot of fun with this. It's a fun theme, something very unique and interesting, and not something you get to talk about a lot. And I really, really can appreciate that. All right, that about wraps it up for day 2 of Drawlloween 2018. Once again, big thanks to the good folks at Drawlloween for putting out the calendar. Thanks to you guys for tuning in and watching this. If you're watching it on a computer, well, I hope it's not haunted, and that you guys have a great night and a great rest of your Octobers. We'll see you tomorrow for more fun here on Markers of Monsters. Good night.